Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Let's talk about Russian President Vladimir Putin's virtual speech to the Davos globalist elites the other day. And this is the first time that Putin has actually spoken at Davos in 12 years. And he gave one doozy of a speech. Boy, did he lay into the globalist establishment. Of course, I think Putin was pretty pumped up about giving this speech. I think he wanted to get out there and criticize all these guys. And boy, did he criticize what's going on in the world. And what we're going to talk about in this speech, he went over a lot of things, but let's focus on what he said about freedom of speech, big tech, and the overreach of the Western powers. And that's really where he hit the hardest. Now, of course, he was criticized by the mainstream media for not bringing up the Navalny protests, for which I say, why should he bring it up? That's an internal affair of Russia's, number one. And number two, and this dovetails into his comments about big tech and censorship. Number two, why should Russia care? Because at the end of the day, no Western country, especially the United States, should be lecturing any other country, including Russia, about freedom of speech, the right to protest, censorship, and all these things, because the United States censored their president. So, big tech censored a sitting president of the United States and essentially tried to make him disappear across the entire internet. Not to mention their stance on protesters. We're seeing that play out in real time. So the U.S. really doesn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to lecturing any country in the world about this stuff. And those are unintended consequences. That's collateral damage when the U.S. decides to move in this techno-fascist direction. Then they lose the right to lecture any other country about democracy, because you can't lecture other countries about democracy and free speech when you yourself are moving in a direction absolutely opposite of that of democracy and free speech. So you can't have it both ways. So anyway, let's go to what Putin said. And in a time post here, it says that Putin warns big tech poses a threat to legitimate democratic institutions. And let's scroll down to what Putin talked about here. And of course, they make the claim that he didn't mention anything about the Navalny protests. They talk about his phone call with Joe Biden the other day, where he spoke about various issues. But most importantly, they ended up moving towards a deal with arms control, which was the important part. And Biden pretty much gave Putin everything he asked for. Alexander McCurry did a video on that, and he broke it all down. Check out his channel, and you'll see the breakdown of that phone call. But in his speech to the Davos elite, this is what Putin said. He said that big tech companies posed a particular challenge to legitimate democratic institutions over the next decade. Quote, digital giants have been playing an increasingly significant role in wider society. This is all via a video conference. And I'll show you guys a short video clip from RT, and I'll try to break it up so I don't have any copyright issues. But Putin said via video conference, quote, in certain areas, they are competing with states. Here is the question. How well does this monopolism correlate with the public interest? Where is the distinction between successful global businesses, sought-after services, and big data consolidation on the one hand, and the efforts to rule society by substituting legitimate democratic institutions, by restricting the national right for people to decide how to live and what view to express freely on the other hand? Now, Time says that this Time post says his comments about the U.S. apparently referred to American social media companies such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter imposing a ban on former President Donald Trump after his supporters violently stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Of course, Time is, a neoliberal publication, so of course they say that Putin's remarks apparently referred to, no, they absolutely referred to what social media did. And social media, yes, it banned it didn't ban a former president. It banned a sitting president at the time. And not only did they ban President Trump, they went after everyone in and around Trump's inner circle and outer circle. They went after his supporters. They deplatformed Trump across every internet service you could possibly imagine, even services outside of social media like Spotify and e-commerce services like that. And it was very much a Silicon Valley coordinated takedown of a U.S. president and everyone that supports a U.S. president. And we're still seeing that play out even today. I mean, they're not stopping. So, time presents a very different picture here than what really happened. But of course, you have to expect that when you're dealing with these liberal media outlets. So let's see. The South China Morning Post also says that Vladimir Putin warns of a dark anti-Utopia world in a Davos speech. And Putin also warns of global tensions similar to the 1930s that sparked World War II. Putin talked about the pandemic. He said the pandemic has exacerbated the problems and disbalances that have been accumulating. International institutions are weakening, regional conflicts are multiplying, and the global security is degrading. He also said that Putin says, quote, "I strongly hope that such hot global conflict is impossible now. It would mean the end of civilization, but the situation may become unpredictable and spin out of control. There is a real danger that we will face a downturn in global development fraught with an all-out fight, attempts to solve contradictions by searching for internal and foreign enemies, and the destruction of basic traditional values." That's also a direct reference to the United States. That line right there. Attempts to solve contradictions by searching for internal and foreign enemies, and the destruction of basic traditional values. Putin is talking to the American people in that sentence. And he is saying what they're doing to the United States is they are destroying your traditional values, and these institutions, these dangerous global institutions, are searching for internal enemies. Of course, they're always searching for foreign enemies. And while under Trump, you didn't have a new war, under Biden, it's all but certain that we will have many new foreign wars. But Putin is warning, outside of the foreign conflicts, people in America take note that they are now looking for internal enemies as well. So I think that line is directed at the American people, and it's a warning. It's basically a red flag from Putin, and he's spelling out exactly what's happening in the U.S. right now under a Biden administration. So here's some of the speech here. It's from RT. It does have a translation. RT has the title, "Big Tech Have Become Rivals to Governments," and it's Putin at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And let's play a little of it. I'll stop it as it plays, and hopefully that'll clear me of any copyright stuff. So let's listen to what Putin had to say here in his own words.
Now there is one other point. Modern technology, digital giants now playing an increasingly higher role. We often hear that in conversations, particularly to the election campaign in the US. And these are not just technology giants, not just economic giants. In some areas, they are de facto compete with states.
They de facto compete with states. 100%. Man, Putin is so freaking based. 100%. These companies have become so big that they compete with states. Not only do they compete with states, they work with the powers of that state. That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing big tech have not only become so powerful, but they actively work with the governing power right now in the U.S. to promote this new neoliberal techno-fascism.
They have billions of users, and people spend a lot of time in those ecosystems. They actually have a monopoly. It may be good for their governance, for their operations, but people wonder, does such a monopoly coincide or isn't in line with social interests? It offers so many services, but it consolidates big data, and it can use the data to manage the community at its own discretion.
Okay, so he's referencing big data here. I've said many times about the law in Russia, which says if a Russian user joins one of these big tech platforms, and they spell it out, it has to be a platform with a certain amount of users. If it's operating in Russia, if it has a presence in Russia, and it's signing up Russian citizens, then that data has to be hosted in Russia. If they don't host the data of Russian citizens at a data center in Russia, then they're blocked from the country. I've said that all the social networks at first, they had some pushback, but eventually they backed down, with the exception of LinkedIn, which says, no, we're not going to host any of our Russian citizen profiles in a data center in Russia. So Russia blocked them, and that holds to today. You cannot access LinkedIn in Russia. So when it comes to big data, Putin is pretty much, he drew a line in the sand. He says, if you're going to come into our country and hold the data of our citizens, and you're going to have millions upon millions of users' information, then that has to be hosted inside of Russian Federation borders.
To usurp or limit the rights of the people to live, to choose, to speak out, we have seen that, and we saw it in the US, and everyone knows what happened. Everyone knows what I'm referring to. And
everyone knows what I'm referring to. He is calling out what big tech did to Trump. What big tech is doing to the United States, he's calling it out. He is calling it out, how they are taking away the rights of the American people. And he says it. People know exactly what I'm talking about. We called this. The Duran called this. I've been saying this for a while now. The minute big tech did this to Trump, it was game over. Uganda decided that they don't want big tech involved in their elections because they're going to meddle and they have a political bias. They're 100% right. Doesn't matter if you agree with the government or not. I'm not taking sides as far as whether a government is good or bad. What I am saying is that they are justified, any government. I don't care if it's the government of North Korea or the government of Germany or Italy or Chile. It doesn't matter. They now have the right to tell big tech not to interfere in their elections. They have the right now to block big tech from for having access into their country. They have that right now because big tech has done two things. Number one, they have lashed out against their own president. That's a huge red flag. That's a warning sign. That's frightening for governments that they can deplatform a sitting president and a sitting administration. And number two, they showed tremendous political bias and election meddling. They came out into the open and they showed political bias. So now it's, every country can absolutely do whatever they want with regards to big tech and how they view big tech operating within their borders. And that's what President Putin, Russian President Putin is saying. And keep in mind that Putin has already begun to pass many laws with regards to big tech and curbing their influence in Russia. He also has told big tech, he's also sent a warning to big tech and said, if you place disclaimers underneath the profiles of Russian media by saying, Russian state media underneath the account profile, but you don't do it for other state media outlets, for example, when you see RT's profile on Facebook, it says Russian state media. When you see BBC's profile on Facebook, which is UK state media, it doesn't say UK state media. Putin says either both of them say state media underneath the profile, they have that disclaimer, or none of it happens, none of it shows. He's saying let's have an equal playing field, and he sent that warning, and he told big tech, if you don't treat every state media outlet equally, then we're gonna screw around with you. He pretty much said it. We're gonna throttle your traffic. We may even ban you. So he said many warnings, and Putin he's a man of his word.
I believe that most of the people share this point of view, share my point of view.
All right. I believe most of the people share my point of view. Yes, they do. Absolutely. I think most of the people do. Isn't it strange that Russia and Russian President Vladimir Putin are now, becoming some of the world leaders that are speaking out against big tech censorship in the United States? I mean, everything is flipped. But this is, the U.S. is moving towards what the Soviet Union was, and Russia is moving away from what the Soviet Union was, and I think those are the trajectories that we see. Russia is a new, it's a fairly new country, a new democracy. It really is. It's only 25 years old, and so not even 22 years old. And so they're developing towards a new democratic capitalistic society. And meanwhile, the U.S., which was that, is moving to where Russia was, to where the Soviet Union was. So anyway, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think about what Russian President Vladimir Putin said about big tech, about censorship, and everything that's going on in the world. I'll put a link to that video down below so you guys can hear it. It's about 1 minute and 20 seconds long when he talks about big tech, but you can get his whole speech. It's pretty much everywhere. His whole video conference speech to the Davos globalists. I'm sure Klaus Schwab was listening in as well. All right, guys, that's the video. PayPal, Patreon, subscribe, start Bitcoin, help out this channel. You'll find those links down below. And also go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch. Maybe pick up a magic mug. My magic mug right here with the flag of the United States. Take care.